An initiative that aims to protect the right to abortion in Montana's Constitution will now appear on the November ballot. And I talked to reporter Mara Silvers with the Montana Free Press to talk about her in-depth reporting on the subject and the significance of this initiative going forward. And Mara, first, you described the certification of this as launching a new chapter for the abortion rights proposal. So go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, so this proposal was initially filed last November, actually almost a full year ago. And for the last several months, it's been navigating a lot of legal hurdles and a lot of procedural, I guess you could say, hoops and diversions as it works its way toward getting on the ballot. So there have been some challenges along the road with Montana's Attorney General, Austin Knudsen, finding that the proposal was legally insufficient back in the spring. That decision was actually reversed by the Montana Supreme Court. There were also legal fights over the description of the initiative that will appear on the ballot, and several other, several other challenges along the way that delayed its eventual certification. But now, as of this last week, Secretary of State Christy Jacobson has said that it did meet the signature threshold across the state for getting on the ballot. And now the campaign and its opponents will really begin trying to convince voters in earnest whether to support or not support this proposal.
So, do you anticipate more challenges between now and November?
I think at this point, there don't appear to be any on the horizon, but this has been such a abnormal process to cover. At every point, you might think that you understand what's going to happen next, and then something new happens. So I don't think that I'm resting yet. There could always be more legal challenges, but we're just not sure about what.
So, you've been covering this for a long time and you know it from all angles. What are the key takeaways for you?
I think that it's important for voters to know that this really would launch a new chapter of abortion law and policy and rights in Montana. It would create a new section of the state constitution that explicitly enshrines the right for people to make decisions about their own pregnancies, including abortion. And although Montana already has legal abortion access in the state under the Constitution's right of privacy, this would establish an entirely new section, and that would in the future going forward, if voters approve this, the legislature would pass new laws that affect that section, and the court would interpret the Constitution under that new language. And so it is potentially the beginning of something quite new in Montana.
All right. So, talk about who's behind it and then who's opposing it. Clarify some of that.
Mm-hmm. So the group that's sponsoring CI 128 is called Montanans Securing Reproductive Rights. It's a coalition of groups that have come together to support this. It includes Planned Parenthood Advocates of Montana, the ACLU of Montana, Forward Montana, and a national ballot issue group called the Fairness Project. So they're kind of like the primary pillars of that group. Some of the largest donors to this movement are also national political action groups that have supported ballot issues regarding abortion rights in other states as the country just starts to, continues to decide how it wants to deal with abortion at the state level. Some of the opponents are groups that Montanans might also know. The Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America group is a national anti-abortion organization that it has said it will campaign very, very forcefully against this initiative in Montana. There's also the Montana Family Foundation and Pro-Life Montana that are launching more of a grassroots effort to, they have been opposing this at the signature gathering stage and trying to launch a decline to sign movement that was ultimately unsuccessful, but they will also likely be handing out literature and be trying to convince voters now to support this come November.
Okay. So, how would this change abortion access in Montana in the short term?
I would say not very much in the near term, but like any constitutional right, this is going to be defined over the course of decades if voters do ultimately decide to put it into the Constitution. So although the right to privacy and the right of dignity and many other rights in the Montana Constitution were originally put there in the 1970s, we're still arguing over them today. Courts are still deciding exactly what they mean and how they're applied. So there's a lot that's unknown about the actual application of this. However, based on the black and white language that's on the page, we know that CI 128 would establish protections for abortions pre-viability. It does allow the government to regulate abortion access after the point of fetal viability, but not if a treating healthcare provider has found that an abortion is medically indicated to protect the life or the health of the pregnant patient. And that's essentially how Montana abortion access operates currently. We don't have an enforced deadline or cutoff for abortion based on days and weeks, but this would give a slightly more contours to that in the constitutional language.
Okay. Well, as we start to wrap up here, is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think that voters should just be prepared to get a lot of information over the next couple of months about this initiative. There will be television ads, radio ads, digital advertisements coming up in the middle of their Netflix or Hulu show that they're watching. I think that this messaging phase of the campaign will heat up pretty quickly, and voters are going to be assailed with a lot of information about this. So I would just encourage them to do their research and seek out reputable news sources to find out more about this before November.
All right. Well, we'll keep following your reports. Thank you so much, Mara.
Thank you for having me.